Hey guys, what's going on? This is Travis P11. I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. And today we're going to do another 1911 cleaning, but this 1911 is very unique. It's very special. What we have here, guys and gals, is the Rock Island Armory M1911 A2 full-size tactical model, okay, chambered in 22 TCM. And if you're not familiar with that cartridge, we'll be bringing you a little range test of this pistol in the near future. It's basically a 1911 pattern, semi-automatic handgun chambered in the 22 TCM cartridge. Disassembly and cleaning on this, it's not going to be a whole lot different from the 1911s you've seen on this channel, but if this is your first pistol, if you're not sure what to do, you don't know where to start, or maybe you just don't like the manual, you can watch this video and we'll make it really easy for you. It's a beautiful pistol. By the way, this pistol is on loan to us from Stan, the owner of SS Pawn in Lexington, Nebraska. Guys, go ahead and give SS Pawn a call and they will take care of your firearms needs, and this pistol is part of Stan's private collection. And SS Pawn's been a long-time supporter of the channel. Now, what are you going to need for cleaning? Okay, well, it's real simple. You know, everybody has their favorite cleaner and lubricant they use on firearms. If you don't know where to start, a good place to go is just some simple Safariland break-free CLP. You can buy this at most of your sporting goods stores in their hunting department, or at your favorite gun store, Walmart, and so on. This is a good one. It's a little bit heavier than rim oil, so keep that in mind. So this can leave a little bit of a coating, depending on how much lubrication you think you need. This works all the way around, but just make sure you wipe off the extra residue when you're done cleaning anything. Rim oil is going to work great. I like to use this on magazines because it does not leave a thick residue, but it cleans and protects. Say what you want. I've been using it for 20 years. I've yet to actually have any guns rust out on me. You can use some old toothbrushes if you want to, if you're on a budget, but these are some Allen brand cleaning brushes. I'm sorry, Hoppy's cleaning brushes. They're just nylon bristles. Allen makes these also. Otherwise, old toothbrushes work fine. Just make sure that they're clean. You want some Q-tips for some fine cleaning duties. Now, this particular pistol is essentially like a 22 caliber. So what you want to do is get yourself a 22 pistol or rifle cleaning kit. Me, to make it easy, I'm just going to use a 22 caliber bore snake. We're just going to run this down the barrel a couple times to clean it out. Check it, make sure it's clean, dry it, run through a few times with some cleaner on it, and I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to be good to go. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. As for the actual wiping off, by the way, make sure you get yourself some cotton cleaning patches. Now, on a budget, you can cut up an old cotton t-shirt into squares. You can use that. For this channel, I just like something that's just simple and easy to use, so we just go ahead and buy them, but you can use whatever you want. These are just 30 to 45 caliber cleaning patches. We're not going to obviously run these down the barrel because they're going to be a little bit too big even if you snip them, but we are just going to use it to wipe off the frame and so on. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first step to any cleaning is to make sure that the firearm is in fact unloaded. So go ahead and press the magazine release button right here on the side. Magazine's going to pop right out. Magazine is empty. Go ahead and check the chamber. Okay, chamber is in fact empty, and we will go ahead and move on to our next step. By the way, if you want to wear any kind of, latex or nitrile gloves for this cleaning, feel free to do so. We are going to be using some chemicals, so keep that in mind. I usually don't. I probably should, but I don't. And when you're done cleaning the gun, by the way, make sure you wash your hands off with cold soapy water first and then use hot water. The cold soapy water is going to prevent any kind of lead from getting into your skin or any kind of oils or chemicals from absorbing into your skin. If you wear gloves, it's not really going to be an issue, but just kind of my little precaution before we get started. So let's just go ahead and wipe off the magazine with a little bit of rim oil. I usually like to follow up with a dry patch on this just to make sure there's no residue. You don't want to get any kind of lubricant on your ammunition, especially this is centerfire ammunition, by the way. Unlike rimfire ammo like you get for 22 LR, 22 TCM is a very unique cartridge. It's basically a 5.56 brass that's been necked down or cut to fit the 22 TCM bullet. So let's just go and wipe it off with a dry patch, get that off of there. I've had some magazines come out of the factory that have lots of packing grease on them, and sometimes the magazines are dirty inside. I think we're going to be okay for this one. If you want to take these apart, that's a whole separate process. You want to go ahead and check your manual or check another video, but we're not going to do the magazine disassembly here. Today is just going to be a basic field strip and disassembly. Okay, go ahead and set that off to the side, and we will move on to the next step. Okay, so this next part can be a little bit tricky, especially if you've never taken a 1911 apart before. So what you want to do is you're going to want to press down on this this guide rod recoil spring plug, okay? And then you're going to want to rotate the barrel bushing clockwise and get it out of the way once we get this pushed down into the dust cover or the lower part of the slide. So we're going to go ahead and press that down the best we can. Okay, make sure that we clear the front. Go ahead and rotate the little bushing clockwise. Now this is under spring tension the whole time, so be very careful and gently just let it go, okay? And we will go ahead and move on to our next step. Okay, so at this point you're probably looking at something like this. Now it's okay if this little plug falls off the end. We're just going to put that on back on when we reassemble the pistol. So there's a little tiny notch right here in the slide, and this is essentially the part that you're going to have to line up with your takedown pin, which is this portion right here. Now some people also call this a slide stop or a slide release. They argue for hours about it. Really, it's kind of pathetic, but that's just what people do sometimes. And then once that's lined up right there, you're going to want to press on the right-hand side right here, and the little pin is just going to pop right out. And go ahead and take that pin out. Now you can go ahead and just wipe this off with some Rem oil or some CLP if you want to. This has a little bit of grease on it, some oil, probably some residue from being factory fired. So I'm going to get that wiped off, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, you can also go ahead and wipe off that plug if you want to and just set that off to the side. Sometimes you might want to get in there and wipe it out. You can get some grease in there. It's just almost like a cylinder essentially. So let's go ahead and put that. Wipe it out. Again, any excess oil you can wipe off with a dry patch when you're done. You don't have to have a big coating on there. So this is what we have. Now we should just be able to push the slide and all the internals and everything right off, and your frame is going to separate from the slide. Now this pistol's not been fired yet, and we're going to go and just start off just wiping down the frame with some CLP, so we'll kind of take you through the process of it. Again, you don't need excess oil. If anything, you only really need lubrication on the parts that have contact for the most part, okay? Which is going to be these rails right here. You obviously want something covering everything in order to protect it from the elements, especially if you're, say, in like a salty environment or a high humidity environment and so on. So let's go ahead and get this cleaned off. If you happen to notice a lot of buildup on the inside of this frame, you feel free to kind of wipe parts out, wipe everything out if you want to. We'll just kind of go ahead and give everything just kind of a general wipe down inside. Now I'm going to leave a little more lubrication on this than normal for this first range trip because I'm going to take it home and immediately clean it when I get done. I'm not going to be working in a dusty or sandy environment, so it's not going to be a big deal. I just want a good break-in. I want proper function. You got to make sure that you at least have adequate lubrication on the parts that are going to need it in case we're just wiping all these parts out. You know, wipe out the inside of the frame. Oh, something I like to do, and a lot of people might not realize this, you can get a lot of gunk and grime in that magazine well, especially if you daily carry. You'd be surprised at the lint that builds up in there and just the muck in general. So we're going to just take one of these lightly oiled patches and just go ahead and run it through the magazine well from the bottom, or you can go from the top if you want. Just kind of get all that grime out of there. Now, depending on how much material is inside of this grip, that kind of determines how much muck you're going to bring out with it. I've had factory packing grease down in these things come off the magazines, or factory packing oil. You know what they use when they assemble the firearms themselves. And so this one's obviously not too bad because it's fairly new. Gotta love that magazine well down on the bottom. Isn't that cool? And yeah, okay, so we're not too bad. So again, just go and give it a little wipe off. If you want to, you can take a Q-tip, and I just like to run it down the inside of the rails. Make sure you got a little bead of lubrication in there too. Again, one of your main contact points. That's important. Again, put a little CLP on there. Okay. Run the Q-tip down there too. If you just fired the firearm, you're going to notice a lot more buildup. And one thing about this, if you get a good clean the first time, it's much easier to clean the firearm the second, third, fourth time because you've got a nice kind of protective coating inside the firearm. Okay, this is good to go. We will give it a general wipe off when we get done, take off all the excess oil. And let's go ahead and move on to the barrel at this point. So now what we're looking at here is the barrel, the guide rod, and all this. Now don't worry if you forget how you take it apart. We're going to show you how to put it back together. Design on this is really not much different than most of your 1911. So go ahead and remove the guide rod and the spring at this point, which on some of the guns you can go from the front, like my Ruger SR 1911. Looks like this guy's going to go from the back. Make sure this little loop right here is pushed to the back, okay? And then it should just come right out. You can just go ahead and pull it right out of here. No problems at all. Go here. Okay, take the guide rod spring off. Okay, your guide rod comes out. There you go. Okay, go ahead and wipe it off. Again, this is the very first time I've ever taken this apart and cleaning it, so you're watching all this basically happening in real time. So if there's any little boo-boos or mistakes, we'll make sure we let you know. But for the most part, it's not too complicated. So guide rod is good to go. Set that off to the side. Again, I'll keep saying it because people always make comments, oh man, your gun's got way too much lubrication on it, or I don't run that much oil on there. Guys, I wipe it off with a dry patch when I get done before reassembly. This is just kind of letting stuff soak and clean. So there you go. Okay, recoil spring is all done. Now okay, we're going to try our best to keep this in focus. So basically, we want to get this barrel bushing out of here. We want to take it out. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to rotate it now counterclockwise. You're going to see a little notch right there. Okay, you're going to notice it as you twist it if you're actually working on it. Once you get that notch aligned with the bottom of the barrel, it's just going to come right out. And you can see how that little bushing comes off, and you can see the notch that we have right here. Okay. So when you put it back in, obviously you're going to have to line that again and bring it back down, bring it back up to a clockwise, 9 o'clock position before we put the guide rod and everything back in. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and wipe that off. Again, just have a little CLP on standby or some Rem oil. whatever works for you, or just run a patch through it one time. This could be a little bit dirty, especially if it's had a lot of factory firing or if the gun's used and so on. Okay, so that's all taken care of. Let's go ahead and put that off to the side. And we'll go ahead and remove the barrel. Now on some 1911s, you know, you can take the barrel out from the rear. This one, you're just gonna slide it out through the front. And we'll go ahead and wipe off the barrel. Again, just enough lubrication to protect it, nothing excessive. Okay, we're gonna go and just wipe it off. Now what I like to do is what I call marinade the barrel, right? So what we do is we're gonna shoot a little CLP down the barrel and just kind of let it sit and soak for a minute or two as we clean out the slide. So go ahead and get your can on standby here and just go ahead and shoot a little bit of CLP down the barrel. Okay, it's got a very interesting chamber in it. It basically just kind of necks down to the 22 bullet itself, and you've got, almost looks kind of like a 5.56. It's pretty cool, I like that. Get your feed ramps going on. Okay, so go ahead and wipe that off. Okay, we're just gonna let that run down the barrel for a second. Get that down in there. Okay. Now go ahead and just let that sit for a minute. Now with the slide itself, again, same level lubrication, no surprises, a little bit of CLP to wipe out the main portion of it, and then we'll get the Q-tips going for a little more fine work if we need to. You can always wipe it out with some brushes if you need to. Don't get excessive lubrication around here where essentially your striker is going to be right here, your firing pin. Okay, so just go ahead and wipe it off. It's gonna have a nice kind of polished finish. You sometimes can get a buildup. You can always just take a clean Q-tip to that to get the excessive grime out of the part where the extractor is. Okay, so go ahead and just wipe it off. Wipe it out. Now this does have a lot of like tiny ridges in it and stuff like that, so we're probably gonna have to do some fine detail work here real quick. So let's go ahead and just put some CLP on a cleaning rod here. Now if you've got a pistol cleaning rod, you can use that if you want to. Okay, now you can just go ahead and take this and just run it down the barrel and get that under part of the dust cover, lower part of the slide here cleaned out. That wiped out one time, nice and good. Now at this point you can take a dry patch if you want to. I'm going to do that to take off the excess before I reassemble it. Go ahead and run a Q-tip with some CLP or some rem oil down these channels on the inside of the slide. Okay, we want to get those nice and clean, and also towards the rear of the slide. Okay, go ahead and get that down in there. And you'll be surprised with what those take off when you clean them. And again, this is a little more oil than you really need, but this is, you know, me doing this first trip, and then I'm going to take it home and give it a good cleaning again and make sure that it's not too overly lubricated. Okay, now at this point, if you want to, you can just wipe this out with a dry patch and just leave a light coat in there. You're going to be fine. And we are basically ready for cleaning of the barrel. Now, for cleaning of the barrel, again, a bore snake, you can put a little bit of cleaner in the front and in back of the bore snake if you want to. This portion right here, you can put a little cleaner in the front, a little bit in the back, that's fine. Otherwise, you don't have to. With me already having some cleaner going down the barrel, it's really not a big deal. So just go ahead and drop the weight down and just go ahead and pull the bore snake through a couple times here. You know, 2-3 passes is really all you need to do. You've got a copper bristle brush that's going to go ahead and clean it. Okay, pull it through. Might be a little hard to get through the first time. Don't worry about it. You're not going to break anything. This one's a little bit tough because of the way that they make this particular bore snake, but we'll pull it through. Now, if you go ahead and look at it and the bore's nice and shiny, you can see that rifling down there in the barrel, which I don't know if you can, but here it is. Okay, we are nice and clean and we're ready to go. Wipe off a little bit of excess oil from that barrel. You don't have to have it just dripping. It's not a big deal, but just make sure you got just basic lubrication on there. And you're gonna be all set to go. This portion down here, you can use a little bit of lubrication down here too, where you have this little loop, which is essentially where the takedown pin is gonna go. Okay, put a little lubrication on there if you want to. And we are basically ready for reassembly. Okay, so real quick, when it comes to cleaning the barrel, if you don't have a bore snake, you're just using a more traditional cleaning kit, and again, maybe it's your first 22, right? What you'd want to do is you'd want to get your little copper 22 caliber bristle brush, and you're going to want to screw that on your cleaning rod, go from the back to the front, make sure you put a little bit of lubrication down the barrel first, back to the front, take the brush off, again, back to front. Don't ever pull front to back when you're taking your cleaning brush out of any kind of pistol if you're cleaning it, as long as you've got the barrel in your hands, right? Some guns you might not have a choice, but for this one you do. Then after that, you're just going to run a jig with a cotton patch on the front through the barrel a couple times, take it off until the patch comes clean, and then the gun is going to be ready to go. Me, again, I just use a bore snake because it's a little bit easier. Now for distance for reassembly, it's pretty simple. Okay, what we want to do is just go ahead and push the barrel back in from the front of the slide so it locks back into place. Okay, that's good to go. And then after that, what you want to do is go ahead and take your guide rod with this little curved cutout right here and just go ahead and bring it in from the back to the front so it locks into place. It's just going to basically sit flush on the barrel. Make sure this little loop is either up or pushed back all the way. And it's basically going to look like this at this point, okay? Now what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put the barrel bushing on at this point so you can just hold it. Now you can do the barrel bushing pretty much at any point. Just push down on the barrel bushing like this. Okay, and you got this little notch right here, and it's just going to lock back into place. Push it back in the 9 o'clock position, and you're good to go. Okay, go ahead and push your spring in from the front. And at that point, we're going to go ahead and leave it as is, and we're going to put it back on the frame. Okay, so for reassembly, this might seem a little bit odd, but I like to do it basically upside down, way that I hold the gun and so on. So make sure that you got your little loop right here in an exposed position so you can see it. We're going to need to see that little loop so that we can push the takedown lever, takedown pin, slide stop, slide release, and so on. We want that exposed so we can get that pin through there, so make sure that that circle is in fact visible. Okay, this is how everything should look at this point. And go ahead and make sure that the tracks and the channels go together. Okay, when you're putting the slide and the frame back together, just simply put them back together as such. There we go. Go ahead and pull it through. Lock it together till it locks. Now I can already see that little loop is visible right there. You might have to kind of finagle the barrel a little bit or make sure it's lined up perfectly. And we're going to go ahead and push that little pin back into place. So go ahead and get the pin aligned, get it ready to go. Okay, just go ahead and drop it back in the frame and such and pull back. And you should be able to just push that little pin right through the frame and you will be all set to go. Make sure it lines up perfectly right here, like the way you see it. Okay, and this is just simply going to snap all the way through with just a little bit of force. Okay, this is what we're sitting with right now. Okay, just go ahead and set it down on its back like this. Pull everything forward. Okay, now you want to hold it like this. There we go. Okay, now the next step here is going to be pretty simple. We need to get this little barrel bushing all the way back down. Okay, so go ahead and take your plunger, or not barrel bushing, I'm sorry, your guide rod plunger back into place. So go ahead and push down on it. And then just slide this little barrel bushing over till it locks into place. And carefully just pull your finger off. Remember, it's going to be under pressure, so keep that in mind. Okay, and it's going to lock back into place as such. Okay, and again, your hammer's going to be cocked back. That's fine. Let's go ahead and function test it. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and dry fire one time for functionality. And she is all good to go. Again, just go ahead and wipe off any excess oil, and you are basically ready for the range. Again, every 1911 can be somewhat unique in the way that you take it apart and the way that you clean it and so on. Everybody kind of has their own methods and so on. This is just what works for me. The only 1911 I have in my collection is a Ruger SR 1911, so I'm really looking forward to taking this one out. We'll have a range strip on it coming up soon. Guys, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm also over there on guntube.org, Gunstreamer, and UGEtube. Check me out. Make sure you mash that bell so you don't miss any notifications or updates, but I think we're good to go. So, in the meantime, guys, have a great time at the range. If you own one of these Rock Island Armory 1911s, have fun, be safe, and as you know, we will talk to you soon. All right, take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.